it's not Jason, but it's Cropsy, and Cropsy went nowhere, and Jason, we're going to see, Friday the 13th, Part 24. Who knows someday?
Welcome back, everybody. Back to the show. It's Stranger Oddities coming back with you. We're going to be talking about the movie The Burning. The Burning came out in 1981. It was actually written before Friday the 13th. They had got it. So even though there's a lot of similarities with it, so very interesting stuff. It's directed by Tony Maylam, and it's actually produced by Miramax. If you can believe that. Very early on Miramax, before it even turned into what it is now, or at least what it was. So, got a lot of actual really upcoming stars in this that went on to become a lot more than what they were. You had Fisher Stevens in it. The guy from, I can never remember his name. The guy from Seinfeld, he had hair back when he did this. So, and it also has what's his name? I always remember him from the movie Last Man Standing. He is Strozzi. So he's in it. So a lot of people got their start, almost you could say, with The Burning. The Burning is, to me, one of the pinnacle movies of the 80s slashers. 1981, I mean, we're talking, this movie pulls no punches. It was, I know, heavily censored for a while until we got Scream Factory got a releasing out. I actually just picked this up, this Scream Factory collector's edition of this thing. It's truly awesome. Actually, normally I don't really like the alternative cover art that they do for these, but actually the alternative cover art on this is pretty good. You got the Cropsy character spewing out a river of blood with all the campers canoeing in it, and then of course he's at the front there in their path, and he's got his garden shears in it, and that's the one thing about it. The garden shears is the choice weapon of Cropsy. Now, what is this movie? Who is Cropsy? Why is it called The Burning? Cropsy was some sort of, I guess he was some kind of camp counselor guy, caretaker. I think he was a caretaker, actually. That's why he's got the garden shears. These kids get back with him because they don't like him, so they decide to scare him with this skull-looking thing with worms and stuff on it, and it's got like little candles in its eyes. So they put it by his bedside, light it up, and they wake him up. And he wakes up, sees it, freaks out, and he burns pretty bad in this little shed where he lives, or this little caretaker kind of house, woodshed thing he lives in. So he's severely burned throughout the whole movie. They really kind of keep insinuating that this character Cropsy is pretty disfigured, pretty horrific, especially when they do the hospital scene when they're like, the doctor's like, hey, you gotta take a look at this, man. There's some burning victims, and then there's this one, and of course the hand reaches out and grabs him, and he freaks out and all that. So they're really driving home the look of this Cropsy guy. So one thing that to me that sets The Burning apart from a lot of other horror flicks of the time, aside from the amazing job that Tom Savini did for the effects for it, is this is first time where they almost do a really very good job at character development. These characters that you develop, you actually grow to like them. Some you hate, but when they start getting killed off, it's almost sad. It really is, and it's not. One of the scenes that and of course, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, better go back and watch it first and then come back, okay? So, spoiler alert, there's one sequence that always stands out. And, I mean, this movie is just no holds barred. I mean, they just went over the top, in your face gore. there's a raft scene where they're you know, because they're trying to get the canoes get taken away, and they get on this makeshift raft, and they're trying to paddle out, and it's got all you know, a handful of the characters that we've kind of grown attached to on the raft. Well, of course, they're kind of paddling along. They come across a canoe. They think, oh, well, here's a canoe. We can get off this raft. Well, lo and behold, in the canoe is Cropsy. Cropsy pops up with his garden shears and just massacres the living hell out of everybody on this raft. I mean, it is from shears to the throat, damn near scalping somebody, fingers cut off. I mean, it is, like I said, this movie is just, it definitely pulled no punches on that aspect. And it just wiped everybody out real quickly. And like I said, on the raft, it's like, man, there was a lot of people that he kind of cared about, and they just got wasted. So, I saw this movie years ago. This was not one that I rented on videotape from the past or anything like that. I just always heard about it. I always heard, you know, the burning and how it was associated so much with Tom Savini. And, of course, I'm a big Tom Savini fan. Tom Savini was just his effects that he was doing throughout the 80s and stuff. I mean, he's responsible for Dawn of the Dead, you know, Friday the 13th, Part 1, Part 4. He just, The Prowler, Eyes of the Stranger. He was just, he's got a Maniac. He's got his name attached to a lot of, and everything he had his name attached to it. If you're looking at, if you're like me and you love these horror films from this time, like Creepshow and stuff, I mean, you can pretty much rest assured if his name was attached to it, the effects were probably the best that they could have ever done. So, give him huge props for that. And he was a Vietnam vet. He was a photographer over there in Vietnam, and Tom Savini was, you know, his job was to take photographs of a lot of times pretty horrible things. So he even says in much of his interviews that when he created effects, that if they didn't look like stuff that he saw for real, you know, he wasn't really happy with it. This guy, you know, he used the medical reference books of horrific images of real stuff as well to also emulate his effects on the screen. Another one to throw in the mix, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 with the lovely Caroline Williams in it, and Bill Moseley, obviously. So he's involved in a lot of the 80s slashers and horror flicks that you remember from that time. He had a name in it. He definitely was involved. So, this one here, I did, you know, again, I heard it was very heavily edited throughout time. So now we got it in full intact thanks to Scream Factory, and they got this releasing right here that I got on Blu-ray. It also, the special features, you got audio commentary from the director and stuff and journalists, Blood and Fire, the memories of the whole thing, theatrical trailer, and a few other extra little tidbits and stuff like that. But back to it, you know, the character Cropsy's rolling around, and finally in the end, it does reveal Cropsy and what he looks like. Pretty good job. I mean, it definitely was. It's like almost worth the wait because the makeup effects were so amazing on his face. Now, but that being said, one of the things that I wish the movie would have done was showed more glimpses of his face, perhaps maybe giving us like a little hint of this, but throughout the whole thing, he's really roaming around like in this like kind of like a really insidious looking gardener's outfit on. It's not until the very end when you actually really get to see the full makeup effect. So I kind of understand a little bit where they're coming from, where they didn't want to reveal it right away. They just kind of, you know, but it's still the effects and the look of it was so amazing. I wish they would have showed it a little bit more throughout the movie. I think that would have made it a little bit better. But no, and just I gotta say the effects in it that's what it's all about, really. But on the other hand, you know, aside from the great Tom Savini's work in it, Character development really shocked me as far as character development for a movie like this, where its sole purpose is really just amongst a bunch of slasher films that was coming out during the time. I think that this is like really the beginning stages of everything. It was setting a lot of tones for the movies that were coming out during the early 80s. The Burning, and I would say also The Prowler. The Prowler is another one that is definitely up there. Both Savini effects driven movies, so absolutely fantastic stuff.